Hey Pussy, are you still there? UFC 309, Jones versus Stipe is this weekend. And I'm not all that excited, honestly, about that. But there are some other good fights on the card. Um, should be an exciting card in the sense. What we'll do is we'll start with the early prelims, aka this fucking women's fight, and then we'll move to the main event, all the way to the main event, deciding what we think is going to happen throughout each fight. And we're going to start with Veronica Hardy versus Eduardo Mora. You know, we just tend to, on this channel, do this with these. Alright, so we're going to go with Veronica Hardy here. She's been the better of the. She's been a very trying to think of the improved fighter. She used to suck. Now she's a little better. Eduardo Mora, good grappler. She's pretty big. I could actually see her like getting. Well, that's actually who the coin picked. To be fair, just tells it's gonna be a decision. It'll be boring. Anyways, moving on. Oban Elliott versus Basel Hafez. Basel Hafez is not as juiced as he was. So we're gonna be picking Oban Elliott. He had a competitive fight. Basel Hafez had a competitive fight with Jack Della Maddalena, but he also had a competitive fight with Mickey Gall. So I think the level of Oban Elliott's just a lot higher than Basel Hafez. Moving on to the guy we just talked about, Mickey Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Both these guys should not be in the UFC. They're both terrible. Who cares who wins this? I guess Mickey Gall wins by being the less of the two terrible fighters. Fraud check incoming, I guess. Sadly, I believe Marcin Tybura is going to get a submission and blob all over Jonata Deniz. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully Deniz knocks him out. Hopefully we get a new contender at heavyweight. Hopefully we have fun at heavyweight. That won't happen though, sadly. Roberto Romero versus David Onama. We've got David Onama knocking this dude out in the first round very quickly. This dude's debuting. It is his debut in the UFC. David Onama is a veteran of the UFC. Finishes dudes that are already in the... Well, has finished a few guys in the UFC that are actual UFC caliber fighters. Roberto Romero is not. Moving on to Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. Dude, Damon Jackson's hair is just gonna take him through this. He used to not have hair, as you see in this photo. He's got hair now. Damon Jackson, he's the exact same fighter as Jim Miller, except he's coming up from... Nah, he's really not the same exact fighter. Jim Miller's a fucking legend. It's just... I don't know. He's just a mediocre fighter. But Jim Miller used to be really good. He's just, 41 years old. I swear they were saying that he had just turned 40 at UFC 300. But, yeah, this dude, he aged another year in a few months. So I'm going to pick Damon Jackson because Jim Miller's aging faster than time actually allows you to age. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders. we're gonna go with Chris Weidman just not being a terrible middleweight. I'll actually pick submission. Although Eric Anders has grappled some grappling events in the past, maybe that's not the best pick. We'll see. We'll pick Chris by submission. I think he'll use some of his old grappling and get the fight to the ground. Try to submit him. Probably the best fight of the night is going to be Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGee. I think that Jonathan Martinez is going to leg kick Marcus McGee a lot. And I think it's going to end up being too much for McGee too soon in the UFC. Although this will be a fun fight. I could see McGee winning. I don't even want to talk about it, bro. This dude's a fucking badass. Mauricio Hoofy's going to knock out James Yantop in vicious fashion. Like I said with Carlos Prates versus Neil Magny. Although nobody watches my videos, so it really doesn't matter. This dude's going to knock James Yantop out badly. Enjoy that fight, though. That'll be fun. Oh, Jesus. Here we go. Alright, so we're going with the... Yeah. Hooray. What a fight to watch. But moving on to an actual, like, interesting potential fight of what might happen. I personally want Bo Nickal to get fraud checked here. I know Paul Craig is a terrible fighter. He has dog shit stand up. No wrestling defense. And no care about it because he looks like he could be a great fighter. He's got a physique, the athleticism for it, but he just chooses clearly not to train boxing. His hands are terrible. He's got a decent body kick, but that's literally it. Bo Nickal's gonna knock him out as long as he has a brain. Jesus, pick Paul Craig. Maybe that's the sign. Bo Nickal should make sure he stays off the ground at all costs, overhand rights, faking that he's going to take him down and then just throwing an overhand right, blitz him. He's going to get Paul Craig out of there pretty quick, I would assume. Moving on to a pretty fun fight. Well, the funnest fight of the night. Maybe not the most competitive, but it will be a banger. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. One of my favorite two of my favorite fighters, but Michael Chandler is just a weirdo. Charles Oliveira, like, he's just so exciting to watch, though, because he's fucking retarded and fights like it. But that's fun. Like, I love Yuri Prochazka. He fights retarded. I love him. Anyways, moving on. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. They've already fought before. Charles ended up knocking him out, TKOing him with left hook, and follow-up shots while Chandler ran away. I think something similar is going to happen in this fight, except with the follow-up shots, I think it will be a submission rather than a knockout. Chandler is pretty submission savvy himself, like in the sense of like he knows how to defend submissions pretty well, but that starts to fade a little more, and I also more later in the rounds, and I also think that while being hurt, his defense will not be as good. Might be a risk running him as submission rather than TKO. Like maybe I should pick TKO instead. Yeah, we'll go with knockout. We're going to pick Charles to TKO him instead. But who knows? Maybe the crazy Chandler doesn't come out and maybe he fights smart and he could actually grapple with Oliveira. He could sit in Oliveira's guard and ground and pound him and do a good job. He's got good enough submission defense to do so. Anyways, moving on to another fight that just I don't. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Stiopic. Jon Jones is gonna beat up an old man. And we're gonna have to watch that. I don't want to watch that. I want to watch him fight Tom. That would be fun. That would be a real fun fight. I don't know who would win, but I want to see it. I want to see it over this, especially. This guy has not fought in almost 4 years. His last fight was a vicious knockout that he was on the receiving end of. He's aged 4 years since that almost. The last time he won was 4 years ago. He is getting a title shot that he does not deserve. That's the only reason I think this is stupid, is that Jon Jones is the champion defending his title against a guy who has not fought in 4 years and has not won in 4 years. It is what it is, though. I think that Jon Jones is going to use his extremely effective grappling to submit Stipe Miocic. I think he's going to get in on a single leg, run the pipe, get Stiopic down, and then during scramble and tripoding, he's going to catch Stiopic in a darce while tripoding, during the little, head clinch control area. During turtle, I guess. Hate to see it. I hope that Jon doesn't retire after this so that he fights Tom. Hopefully that's what happens. If not, fuck Jon. He's a piece of shit. He's literally a criminal. He's done horrific things all throughout his life, and he is never punished for it. But, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. He's going to win this fight unless Stipe's death rattle comes out and he fights like he used to 4 years ago. I just don't believe that that's going to happen. He has aged 4 years. It's the same thing with the Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler fight. I believe Chandler had a pretty good chance 3 years ago to fight Charles. But that was 3 years ago. Chandler's almost 40 now, and at lightweight, that really matters. Although he is very athletic, so there's that. Anyways, Jon Jones submits Stipe Miocic in the second round. Book it. It's happening. We're saving our picks. Anyways, moving on. That fight's happening tonight. That's going to be pretty fun. The Tyson versus Paul. I'm going to go to our, pick percentage if it ever loads. We are at 61% as of making this channel. So, doing better than we were before when we were at, fucking 47%. Doing terrible. Anyways, like and subscribe, guys. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Shout out to MMA Guru. Our boy Tom eventually will be the champ. See you later, guys.